Welcome back to RGR, folks. It's another week, so we're going to have another conversation about some of the things that aren't exactly what we're highlighting in the film. If you haven't seen those yet, this is Dan Harms, who does the film reviews with me here. We kind of trade off on topics. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing great. As you can see, I am headset-less. No more headset. So this is going to be smooth sailing going forward from here on out. Fingers crossed.
It sounds good. So I'm excited. I know folks will be happy to hear you better. Yeah. That always helps. Folks, if you're not subbed yet, go ahead and do that now. Sub and like, and that always helps us. But we're going to talk about a couple of guys that are fringe at best. I have avoided the topic of the Chiefs starting center because I don't like to be negative. But
I get it.
What have you found? I know you've been looking at Austin Ryder quite a bit.
Yeah, so last week I had my Austin Ryder review go up on arrowheadguys.com. And, you know, what I did, I wanted to go a little bit later in the season just to get a better feel for how he got comfortable in the offense. And because, you know, it was such a crapshoot with who was going to be starting at left guard for him throughout the beginning part of that season. And even after the bye week, really, as soon as Wisniewski got in there, that was the real, you know, tie that stuck at left guard. So he's definitely had some issues with chemistry. The entire offensive line really did. So I wanted to get a better feel and understanding for him as it pertains to the center position, getting more comfortable. And I saw some things that I think people kind of ignored, and I personally ignored throughout the season. He's a much better pass blocker than I would have thought. And, you know, his PFF grades aren't great, but that's just because his he cannot run block to save his life, really.
There's that.
And not all of it is his fault. He's not great with contact strength. This offensive line and the zone scheme is not built to move defensive linemen. It's not. That's just the way that it's built up. It's built to create running lanes wherever they open up. They're not trying to just bull rush people out of the way. And that's just how it is. And that's, you know, Austin Ryder is not going to ever be that. And so he's 28 years old. So what he is right now is kind of the finished product we're seeing as a center, unless he can, I don't know, get better in the film room. So I think that the majority of the time, defensive fronts help him because they're not going to see a lot of 3-4. He's not going to be matched up against the nose tackle a lot, which will help him. And even if he is in the pass game, I think that he's got some tools with his hand fighting and his athleticism, his recovery, and technique that will allow him to be at least a average to above average pass blocker. And since the Chiefs want to throw the football, I mean, that's going to give him a leg up in the starting center position. But I wouldn't put it past Andy Reid to maybe look at somebody else in this coming season, just because I don't think that Ryder at 28 is going to get better, and they got younger, better options going forward. So who knows?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it sounds kind of strange to say 28's, you know, your maturation point. But honestly, for a lot of linemen, it is. Linemen generally have a longer lifespan in the league than, say, skill positions. But still, that evolution, I think I agree with you. I think he's topped out in terms of where he's going. But the question is, like you said, you know, we know they want to throw the ball. Yeah. And I do feel like his feet are pretty athletic. He can get out on the move okay. The anchor point is what the guy's got to grow that posterior chain for me. Get more in his glutes and hams because he's got to be able to absorb some of that more. They are going to see some teams that will throw some three at him. They're going to have a nose. So I mean, the question for me is there somebody that can do similar things in the pass game, not necessarily the screen game, because I think he is pretty solid there, but can offer them something more in terms of getting push inside.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And who would you think that is?
So I'm a little biased, and that's just because I've formed this attachment to Nick Allegretti as an offensive lineman. I'm one of those guys that loves a little bit of grit and some nastiness. And even though that they want that athletic top athlete at the offensive line, give me a guy who's got some athleticism, but a more nasty edge to him. And I think that Nick Allegretti is one of those guys that is going to give you push in your zone concepts, and that's going to help develop more, you know, lanes for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Damien Williams to run through. If you get more push up front, we're not talking about getting just, you know, a yard or no movement from a guy like Ryder. We're talking about 2-3 extra yards forward on a run blocking and any run play that can really help open lanes for cutback lanes, even lanes that you're talking about just inside zone runs. So I personally have always loved the way he plays. He comes from a Big Ten school, Illinois, and he was a 3-year starter. He's got a lot of reps under him. So I think that as long as he's in the watching a bunch of film and getting the understanding of the techniques and the calls that you're going to have to make as a center in this offense, I think that he's got the best chance to edge out Ryder this season.
See, it's interesting that you say that because I don't think he's a center. I don't think he plays
low
enough.
A center?
I don't. I think he's the best fit for him is behind LDT at right guard, in my opinion. I do like his extension, and I agree with you. The nasty streak comes in handy in short yardage. I think just if he can get a little bit more explosive in extending the body length that he has, he's going to get you that extra yard. But for me, it's that rookie Daryl Williams with a Y, folks. It's not Daryl with an E, the running back. But I like the way he plays. And he's got the same nasty streak, but he's more athletic. He's more compact. And he's able, in my opinion, to get off the ball quicker.
I would get that.
Yeah, you would like that?
I get it, but we're talking about a season where he's an undrafted rookie. He's an undrafted rookie free agent. And he has no experience in the offense. So this season, probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm just saying.
You never know, though. The nice thing is when you come from a zone concept in college, it's not that big a leap. I think it's more of a learning curve for Greg, who came from more of a power scheme in college. But he's had that year. Yeah. I just like the idea that I think Andy Reid and Andy Heck have shown us over the years that they don't care where you came from. They're going to make you move your feet. They're going to make you be athletic, especially when this team, I mean, yes, they run inside zone decently, but they're an outside zone team. That's what they want to do all the time, hit the edges and let their backs do the work. And if you can just get a guy turned, you've done your job at that point. So I like the concept. I'm just glad that there's going to be a competition. It's something that's been lacking, I think, the last few years, and that's going to be important.
Yeah, that could even bring out the best in Ryder, which, he didn't have any competition last year, so got to get something.
And I think that we focus on the tackles because there's been rotating competition to be their backup, and we'll see what happens with Niang. I don't know what's going to go on there, but I think we know that they've been looking at that. So to have actually some interior competition, I think is going to go a long way. But what about the other side? Where do you stand on those guys? Because it's a whole different slew of guys that could play left guard.
Yeah, and I think that they're gonna let Allegretti play competition for both center and left guard. I think that's ideally what they want to do is let him kind of be at both, and whoever just wins out is gonna play the best. And that's kind of how Andy Reid wants to do it right now, especially because they have a lot of young interior guys. Rankin's probably not going to be ready to start the season. Hell, he might not even be ready to play this year. It's who knows what's going to happen with offensive linemen and lower body injuries. We just don't know. And Wiley has a lot of work to do to be a better left guard than he was last year. He was clearly a much better right guard. And it's funny, I heard a quote. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Howard Mudd was talking about, or you can play a different area. Like you can go from right guard to playing left guard. It's just not going to be the exact same, but you can get the job done. I know somebody said it, and what Wiley did get the job done in some aspects, but he also didn't get the job done, and he got beat quite a bit of times in pass blocking. And I'm not sure if left guard is going to be his most comfortable place, and if they're going to let LDT be that starting right guard, which I think they will, Wiley's going to have to either figure out what his issue is with playing left guard as opposed to right guard to stick as a starter. So like you said, they've got a lot of guys that they can rotate in, and I'm like you said, this competition is going to be hopefully bring out the best in these players, and we can finally have some continuity this year, assuming we have a season.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the old days, Casey Wigman. It's not the guys that Jamal Charles ran behind. And speaking of Jamal, I know you've been looking at some of that because I see you posting snippets. So were you not an active fan when Jamal was rushing? Is this somewhat new for you, or was it just a time thing?
So going back ways. I lived in Michigan growing up. I spent most of my entire life growing up to about 18 years old in Michigan. So I didn't get to see the Chiefs play a lot on national TV. And both my parents lived in Missouri for a while, so they're Chiefs fans, and they brought that up with me. And I was always a running back guy growing up. Like I wanted to be a running back. When I was in 5th grade, I was a running back, but you're talking about like a 6-foot guy who doesn't really fit in the backfield, but I just wanted to play running back so badly. Obviously I couldn't at this stage, 6'5" doesn't exactly lend itself to playing running back. So I got to really, Priest Holmes brought me into that whole atmosphere, and then Larry Johnson, obviously. So the Chiefs had some really good running backs for me to being brought up with Priest Holmes, and then Larry Johnson, and then Jamal Charles. But I've only recently started being able to actually, look at film. So going back and watching the beginning years of Jamal Charles is something that I thought that it would be a good thing for me to look at, because I've only started looking at the recent Jamal Charles, who wasn't as good. He was injury prone, and then I got Kareem Hunt. So there was that too. So I thought I would see the end product of Jamal Charles, what we saw at his elite level earlier in his career. And it really wasn't exactly like that. He didn't even get the bulk of the carries in 2009 until about week 10. And then he rushed for 1,000 yards from there until week 17. So that was really cool for me to experience, being a fan of the Chiefs and not really getting to see a lot of those games growing up. And now I'm finding, that passion again and doing film work, and it's let me get back into it as a fan and an analyst. So that's cool. It's been a cool experience for me.
Yeah, it gives you a different perspective when you're actually watching what they're doing rather than the result of the play, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, it stands out because I was there for all of that process. I mean, when I first became somebody that followed the Chiefs, when I was just a fan back in the day, it was Barry and a Christian, and it was a long, long time ago. But I get this all the time from people, and last year it was Darwin Thompson.
Yeah.
Now it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There are even people that are stomping for Damian Williams, saying that they're just as good, just as explosive as Jamal Charles. And the fact is, they're not even close.
No.
None of them. It is night and day. I first met Jamal Charles at the Kansas Relays when he was running track. These guys cannot stand up to that kind of speed. So the game has changed. It is not just hit the corner and explode downfield like Jamal was able to do. Now you have to be a little shiftier, and you have to survive contact. That's the big difference.
Yeah, and it's funny because we look at Jamal Charles, and I was just going through some of his clips today, and the way he got outside and turned that corner was just it's different. And you watch that, and like guys like Kareem Hunt, and it's not even close to the same. Jamal floated through contact, around contact, and avoided just about anything he could because his vision was so elite, and his hips just allowed him to accelerate while on the move in ways that I don't think people fully appreciate. And you look at Kareem Hunt, who was that guy who got hit in the backfield, but then would grind out 5, 6, 7 yards, or he would take one of those holes that he'd find and still be able to get into the end zone for a 60-plus yard touchdown. And that's something I think we're looking at with Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit. He's the same speed, same type of try to make a guy miss, and then he's going to use his acceleration to his advantage. But the offensive lines are different, and this offensive line is completely 180 from what Jamal Charles had even in his early days. So, like you said, it's very different. And I think Damian Williams is the only guy that's got that speed that Jamal had. Like their top end speed's pretty similar to from what I've seen. So yeah, you've got Damian in one hand and Clyde in the other, and they're two different players, like the opposites.
I think it's going to be entertaining. I'm trying to help people not get their expectations up. Everybody got super hyped about Darwin last year, and I still like Darwin. He's got some tools to work with, but it's not the same when you see it on college film as what you saw Jamal do in a Chiefs uniform. So I'm just trying to temper down relative expectations, but expectations, everybody's got them, and they're never right.
Yeah, Darwin was a 6th round pick, though. I mean, you're equating a 6th round pick with who flashed a little bit throughout the season. And I think a lot of it has to do with the Chiefs didn't really have a number 1 back. And Darwin was someone that showed some some patience, some of that willingness to grind it out through the tackles. So they thought maybe, Damian doesn't have that vision, that patience. He's more of a one-cut, get up field and try to burst to the end zone guy. And we saw a little bit different of him in the playoffs and near the end of the season where he had some more contact, balance, prowess. But I definitely think that coming into the season with the Chiefs not having a clear-cut number one running back, that definitely played into the Darwin Thompson expectations.
Yeah, that's fair. Expectations are tough to live up to all the time, honestly. But if one guy's done it, it's PM15, who's led this team, honestly, and gotten, forget the Super Bowl. Just the offensive prowess that they've developed in his short tenure has been a surprise to me. And for me, it's mostly because he can do things others can't do because of everything from the clavicle down to the wrist. But yet there's some people that seem to think that arm talent is not legit, and I don't get it.
I hope you're listening, Colin Cowherd. I know you're an avid listener of this show, but the words arm talent, when you're talking about a list of guys that have arm talent and you don't talk about one Patrick Mahomes, there's only one thing to call it, and that's clickbait.
Right.
You've got two guys over 40 on your list. I get from one aspect, they're 40 and they're still having success. Arm talent. Okay. But arm talent is a level up. You got guys like, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, Patrick Mahomes, all these guys that have superior arm talent at the quarterback position. Russell Wilson gets so much disrespect.
Yeah.
He's probably the second best quarterback in the NFL, and yet no one says anything really about him. I find it hard to believe. But yeah,
it's the hangover of that Super Bowl interception, which was not even his call.
No,
but he's the guy who threw it. And that's what it is. For me, you talk about the guys that are over 40, right? One of them who wears number 12 has never had arm talent in the top 5, let alone now when he's 68 years old. But for me, it's not just that talent is one thing. It's scheme. It's whatever that some of these older guys use. I think Brees is probably still up there, but it's not just that Mahomes was admitted. It's that Aaron Rodgers was admitted as well. I don't understand.
Was Jared Goff.
Right. Oh.
Jared Goff.
This is why I don't pay attention to other talking head media. I try to be my own talking head because it doesn't make any sense.
No, Jared Goff had a good season. When nobody expected them to be that good, and Sean McVay came in and was just using play action. Let's equate the two. Ryan Tannehill, Jared Goff, play action quarterbacks. That's what they were. They had the one good season. Ryan Tannehill's probably going to regress. Then you have Goff, who did the same thing because his offensive line couldn't have been as good as it was the previous year. Right. And you put him in a category of arm talent. He regularly underthrew people downfield. Regularly.
Well, and this is the problem, folks. And this is why we're doing these kind of more relaxed conversational shows, because there's just too much chatter going on. It's part of the COVID thing. It's part of no OTAs to actually talk about. It's part of the whole thing. And that's why, remember, on Tuesdays, I'm going to do the rumor smashing. Last week I talked about Jamal Adams, and that actually has a little bit of thread of truth that could actually work. It's small, I know. But the others are just out in left field. And so that's what we're trying to talk about and give you guys a real idea of what's actually happening, rather than what folks like Microphone Boy come up with. So
yeah, I don't know what goes through his head, man. I feel like he's always been against Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah.
I used to actually watch his show on FS1 pretty religiously, just because he, for the most part, seems like he's willing to accept some of his misguidings and his failures, because he has this thing where he does on Mondays the things that he was right and wrong about. But then you talk about Patrick Mahomes, or actually don't talk about Patrick Mahomes, when it's obvious that he's the most talented quarterback in the NFL. And that only can lend itself to, again, nothing is going on right now. It's hard to to get viewers into your show and people to click on your stuff on Twitter. But when you're that wrong about something, that's just being stupid and not really caring about the consequences of that. And the best part about it, he had his media team fix his thing about it, and it was like quarterbacks that deliver the most accurate passes or something like that, or the most catchable passes, something like that. And he was, that still really doesn't make any sense.
PFF has a staff for that. I'm pretty sure Mahomes is on top of it as well. So
I think PFF has a staff for Colin Cowherd. It's called BS.
Folks, if you like watching Colin, nothing against him. We're just trying to say this is the lull time when people kind of make things up. So we're just going to keep smashing them. We appreciate you checking this one out. And I think we'll probably take some of these other things offline. Maybe we'll throw you a glimpse eventually. If you are interested in hearing this show, particularly these episodes as a podcast, we are preparing. That's going to premiere in the fall, hopefully with an NFL season. But we're going to have the RGR Football podcast as well. It will be a shadow of this actual content. If you can't watch it, you can at least listen to it. So thanks for checking us out today. Thank you, Dan Harms, for all of your things. Because I wouldn't mention half this stuff if you didn't bring it up. So.
Someone's got to. We got to talk about it.
Right? All right. But you guys have a good week, and we will catch you next time.